Hey everyone, hope you're having an amazing day. It's Code Karen. Welcome to r/Am I the Idiot, where we have an incredible story with comments and an update. If you are new to this channel, a sub would be great. Tap that notification bell. Let's jump right in. Am I the idiot for giving my wife an ultimatum? Either her sister moves out or I move out. We are both not living in the same house. My wife and I have been married for 15 years. We are child-free and in our early 40s. A major reason why we are child-free is that my wife grew up in an abusive home, and a huge fear of hers is that she would perpetrate that cycle of abuse if she had children. She's been in therapy for as long as I've known her, and she's been pretty open with me about her childhood. But not completely. She says she isn't keeping much from me, but I have a feeling she's leaving out the worst stuff. She has 3 younger siblings, 2 brothers and a sister. Growing up, my wife pretty much raised them on her own, and she has a very strong mama bear instinct when it comes to her siblings. About 2 years ago, one of her brothers accidentally OD'd, and my wife asked if he could live with us. I agreed on one condition, that he would go to rehab, and if he had one relapse, he's gone. To his credit, he worked hard, got himself clean, and has been living with us ever since. He works full-time doing construction and has saved a decent amount of money. He wants to buy a house, but has no credit history, so I've been helping him build his credit score. I even told him I would consider co-signing a loan if he needed it. I've been really impressed by his personal and spiritual growth. About 6 months ago, my sister-in-law came to our front steps in tears with her 3 kids. I never got the full story from her, but from what my wife told me, she had an affair. Her husband found out. Both were drunk. They got into a fight, and my sister-in-law told her husband that her affair partner was better in bed than him. Classic mic drop. Her husband kicks her out. As far as I know, no divorce paperwork has started. Yet. So, you guessed it. The sister-in-law and her kids have been staying with us ever since that argument. We don't have a big house, so, in my opinion, it's way too crowded and not sustainable for all these adults, plus children. To be honest with you all, I don't like my sister-in-law. She doesn't discipline her kids, they don't clean up after themselves, she has made 0 effort to find a job, she drinks in our home. I hate living this way. This has been building up in me for a while, and I think of myself as a pretty patient guy. But one day last week, I told my wife that I can't deal with her sister and her kids living here any longer. She has overstayed her welcome and needs to start looking into other options. Immediately. My wife jumped all over me and accused me of playing favorites with her siblings. She said I allowed her brother to stay for years, and it's not fair to kick out her sister. I said we aren't kicking them out. We are going to tell them they have X amount of time to figure out other options. My wife snapped back and said that I have no idea what her sister is going through and what it's like to live with an abuser. I agreed with her, but I felt that the self-imposed drama she created with her husband wasn't the same as her childhood. Her sister got herself into this situation because of poor life decisions, and it's not our responsibility to get her out of it. I told my wife that if her sister and kids were not out of the house by the end of the year, that I would move out myself. She looked shocked when I said that, and called me an idiot as she walked away. So, I ask all of you, am I the idiot to wave this ultimatum flag in front of my wife? I don't think I'm playing favorites when it comes to her brother or her sister. It's all about 2 things, respect and boundaries. And my sister-in-law has done a fine job of trampling on both of them. Let's head to the comments. Little Win says, not the idiot. I share a lot of characteristics with your wife. A product of an abusive household where I had the responsibility of caring for my siblings. Several destroyed relationships later, I am finally in therapy. Your wife genuinely believes her siblings need her, and to a certain extent, they do. However, what she is doing is enabling your sister-in-law, not supporting her. Productive support closely resembles what you're doing for your brother-in-law. You set expectations that helped him to get healthy, to create a stable life, and to design a plan for his future. That is, saving for a home of his own. This is a great example of support. What your wife is doing for the sister-in-law is enabling, because it in no way supports her to make those critical changes in her life to get her back on her feet and be independent. By not working, not parenting, and drinking, she is continuing that same abusive cycle with her own children. But this time, in your home and on your dime. I don't blame you for being upset one bit. I will say, before you move out, get your wife some counseling so she can really understand the layers of this crippling dysfunction and finally unpack the burdens she has been carrying since childhood. She needs to ask why her bond with her siblings is more important than the bond she shares with you. Flying Plato says, "Don't you get it? In some twisted way, your wife sees and cares for her siblings like they were her kids. So nothing has changed even after marrying you. I think she recognizes weakness and frailty in her sister and is trying to overly protect her, like she wishes someone had done for her when she was a young child. The brother is stronger in character, and I don't think she feels he needs her protection as much. So, your wife is covering for her sister and not letting her make big girl decisions. Enabling 101. She can't see beyond this, and that's why you, as the husband, feel excluded from all these decisions." Fallacy 280 says, "Not the idiot, but your brother-in-law came to you after hitting rock bottom and really needed your help. Your sister-in-law came to you after cheating on her husband and has no burning desire to change. If you really love your wife, I would say, honey, here's my deal. Your sister must get individual and family counseling. More time living at our house is not doing anything for anyone, especially our marriage. She has to get a job and will watch her kids until she has saved up enough money to get a place, or go back to her husband. If you feel that I'm being unreasonable, I'll move out and you can deal with her full time. I'm out of here." It's going to get interesting because family ties can really blind you to the truth. I'm Golden 33 says, "This might be unpopular, but I think everyone stinks here. I was completely on your side until you issued such a rigid ultimatum. It's obvious you're both struggling with this in different ways. And while your needs and expectations are totally reasonable, I think you could have shown more empathy to your wife by not threatening to leave her and your home over her allegiance to her sister. That cuts pretty deep and definitely kills some trust. You already know she has major trust issues. I would rather you helped your wife come to the realization that her sister needs a different kind of help or assistance, one that does not involve free handouts and carte blanche to anything in the house." Update. My wife and I have been in couples counseling since my brother-in-law moved in. I probably should have included that in the original post. We have been with the same therapist for the last 18 months. My wife doesn't see how I can be so willing to help one of her siblings and not the other. For her, all it takes is to see one of her siblings in need, and she jumps in and is willing to do whatever it takes to help. I don't have that same instinct, and I feel like my brother-in-law did a great job of helping himself to get better. My sister-in-law has shown none of that same desire and has a really negative attitude. So, of course, I'm going to treat them differently. Their two situations are not the same. My wife should know this about me. I am the most understanding guy in the world, and I respected her decision to not have children. But I will not be disrespected, and certainly not by her sister, who is taking advantage of my wife's weakness for her own benefit. It makes me sick to have to give my wife an ultimatum, but it might be the only thing to wake her up to her sister's manipulation. Our last two comments come from Who is Year One and Charisma with a K. Who is Year One says, "Don't beat yourself up. My mom is just like your wife with her siblings. She's the oldest of 7. I call it the circle of wagons mentality. They grew up in a massively traumatic, abusive, and chaotic household, and they had to band together to survive. They are still very codependent on one another, to the detriment of the relationships they have with their other loved ones. I don't think this will ever change. Heck, they are all now in their 60s and 70s. I don't believe they know any other way to cope. Charisma with a K says, "You just described my best friend's husband and his entire side of the family. They were raised with abuse and chaos, and they do have that circle of wagons mentality, no matter how messed up and dysfunctional things get. They are their own worst enemies and constantly sabotage each other's lives and make things worse. They always include the other family members in matters that should be kept away from the others because that's all they know how to do. I've always been baffled as to why they are like this, but it all makes so much sense now after reading through all these comments. Families can be very complicated. I wish there was an easier way for everyone to get along." Hey Code Karen community, what would you do in this situation? I'd love to hear your comments. See you in the next story.